All right, everyone, ready for another deep dive? Today we're looking into something that really caught my eye, the Edison generator.
The Edison generator.
Yeah, like Thomas Edison, the light bulb guy. But this is about generating electricity at home.
Ah, okay, I see where we're going with this.
Yeah, so it's called the lost generator, and apparently it uses some of Edison's old concepts to, well, to generate power.
The lost generator, you say?
I'm intrigued.
Me too. So it's all based on these DIY plans that you can find online, and they claim anyone can build it.
Anyone?
Yeah, even someone like me, and my DIY skills are, let's just say, limited.
Well, if the plans are that good, maybe we should both give it a try.
Maybe we should. But first, let's figure out how this thing actually works.
Right, the basics. So the Edison generator, or rather the lost generator, is all about harnessing thermal energy, basically turning heat into usable electricity.
Whoa, heat into electricity. Like, how does that even work? I know, right? It sounds pretty wild. But think about it. Heat is energy, just in a different form. And the lost generator supposedly figures out a way to convert it.
Okay, so that's the what. But what about the why? Why is everyone so excited about this thing?
Well, there are a few reasons. First, think about energy costs. They're going up everywhere, right?
Yeah, my electricity bill is definitely not getting any smaller.
Exactly. So people are looking for ways to save money, to become more energy independent. And this generator, well, it could be a solution.
Makes sense. But isn't that just the financial side of things? What about, the environment, all that?
You're absolutely right. People are also becoming more and more concerned about the environment, about relying so heavily on traditional power sources.
So using something like heat, which is often just wasted anyway, that could be a game changer.
Exactly. The lost generator taps into that desire for cleaner, more sustainable energy solutions.
Okay, I'm starting to see the appeal here. But is it really that easy to build? I mean, I can barely change a light bulb without causing a minor disaster.
Well, according to what we've found, the plans are designed to be super user-friendly. They claim it's like following a recipe.
A recipe. So, I just gather the ingredients, or in this case, the parts, and follow the steps.
Pretty much. And the best part is they say you can find all the parts you need at your local hardware store. No need to order some obscure components from who knows where.
Okay, that's a relief because my toolbox is pretty basic, to say the least.
Mine too, don't worry. But that's the point. It's supposed to be accessible to everyone.
Accessible, affordable, and potentially game-changing. It all sounds a bit too good to be true. What's the catch?
Well, it's important to manage expectations. The lost generator is mainly designed as a supplemental or backup power source.
Ah, okay, so not replacing the power grid just yet.
Not quite. But think about it. Even having a backup power source can be invaluable, especially if you live in an area with frequent power outages.
True. Or if you just want to reduce your reliance on the grid, even a little bit.
Right. Every bit helps. And what's really interesting is that they offer a 60-day money-back guarantee on the plans.
A money-back guarantee. That's pretty bold. They must be confident in their product.
Yeah, it seems like they're really trying to make this as risk-free as possible. So what do you say? Are you ready to dive deeper into the specifics of how this thermal energy conversion actually works?
I'm all in. Tell me more.
Okay, let's break it down. So it all comes down to something called the Seebeck effect.
The Seebeck effect. Sounds complicated.
It's actually pretty straightforward once you break it down. Imagine you have two different metals connected together.
Okay, got it. Two metals connected.
Now, if you heat up one of those connections, it creates a temperature difference.
Right, one side's hotter than the other.
Exactly. And because of this temperature difference, electrons start to flow.
Electrons flowing, that's electricity, right.
Bingo, you've got it. That's how the lost generator turns heat into electricity.
Wow, so it's all about harnessing that temperature difference. And that's why they talk about using things like compost piles, right?
You got it. Compost piles naturally generate heat as the organic matter decomposes. It's a perfect example of how the lost generator uses a readily available heat source.
That's pretty clever.
Yeah.
But let's get back to the building process. You mentioned that anyone can build this thing. But what if you're not exactly, handy?
That's the beauty of these plans. They're designed with the average person in mind. You don't need to be an electrician or an engineer.
So no advanced degrees required.
Nope. The instructions are supposed to be clear and easy to follow. They guide you through every step of the process.
Okay, that's reassuring. But what about the parts? Are we talking about some rare, expensive materials?
Not at all. You can find everything you need at a regular hardware store. Copper wire, transistors, a cooling fan, things like that.
So no need to, raid a science lab or anything.
Exactly. It's all about using common everyday components.
Okay, so the parts are accessible and the instructions are clear. But how long does it actually take to put this thing together?
Well, from what we've seen, most people can build the lost generator in a weekend.
A weekend project, huh? That's not bad at all, but, there's always a part of me that's thinking, what's the catch?
I hear you. And it's good to be cautious. One thing to keep in mind is safety. You're working with electricity, so it's important to follow all the safety guidelines in the plans.
Right, safety first. Always a good reminder. But what about the output? How much power can this thing actually generate?
Remember, it's designed as a supplemental or backup power source, so it's not going to power your entire house.
Right, we talked about that. But would it be enough to keep, the essentials running during a power outage?
Potentially, yes. It really depends on a few factors, like the size of your heat source and how well you build it.
Okay, makes sense. It's not meant to be a complete off-grid solution. But even a little bit of self-generated power, that's got to be a good feeling, right?
Absolutely. It's a step towards becoming more energy independent and resilient.
So if someone's convinced and wants to give this a try, where do they find these plans?
The plans are available on ClickBank, a popular online marketplace for digital products.
ClickBank. Got it. And if you run into any problems while you're building, is there any support available?
Yep. The Lush Generator plans come with access to a dedicated customer support team.
Okay, so they've got you covered if you get stuck. That's good to know.
Hmm.
So we've talked about the how-tos and the potential benefits, but what makes this lost generator truly innovative? What sets it apart from other alternative energy solutions?
I think the biggest thing is its simplicity and accessibility. Anyone can build it, and the parts are readily available. It's a much lower barrier to entry compared to, say, solar panels.
Right. Solar panels can be a pretty big investment, and you usually need a professional to install them. This seems much more DIY friendly.
Exactly. It puts the power literally back in the hands of the individual.
It's like a modern twist on Thomas Edison's ingenuity. It shows that innovation doesn't have to be complicated or expensive.
That's a great point. And it ties into this growing movement toward decentralized energy production.
Decentralized, meaning what? Not relying on big power companies.
Exactly. More people are looking for ways to generate their own power, whether it's through solar, wind, or, in this case, thermal energy.
It's about taking control of your energy needs and becoming more self-reliant.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe this is just the beginning of a bigger shift towards a more sustainable and resilient energy future.
It's a pretty compelling vision. But before we get too carried away, let's talk about safety again. I mean, building your own power generator, that sounds a little,
Risky.
yeah, a little bit.
Mm.
What are some important safety precautions people should keep in mind?
Well, first and foremost, the plans come with detailed safety guidelines. It's crucial to read those carefully and follow them to the letter.
And don't try to cut corners, right?
Definitely not. When you're dealing with electricity, it's always better to err on the side of caution.
Good advice.
Yeah.
If you're ever unsure about something, it's always best to consult with a qualified electrician.
Absolutely. Safety should always be the top priority. But with the right precautions and a healthy respect for electricity, building the lost generator can be a fun and rewarding experience.
Okay, so we've covered a lot here. The how-tos, the potential benefits, the safety aspects. What's the main takeaway for our listeners?
I think the lost generator represents a unique opportunity to explore alternative energy and to take a more active role in how you power your life.
It's about becoming more energy conscious, more self-sufficient, and maybe even saving some money along the way.
And all of that while potentially reducing your environmental impact.
Right. It's about being part of the solution no matter how small.
Yeah,
So what do you say? Are you ready to wrap things up?
I think we've covered just about everything.
All right, then let's leave our listeners with some food for thought. It's a pretty powerful idea, isn't it, to be able to generate your own power, even on a small scale.
It is, and it makes you wonder, what could happen if more people started doing this?
Yeah, like what if this became the norm? Instead of relying on these big power grids, what if everyone had their own little power plants?
Well, that's the idea behind decentralized energy, right? To distribute power generation, make it more localized and resilient.
So instead of having these massive power plants that can be vulnerable to outages or disruptions, you have a network of smaller, more independent sources.
Exactly. It spreads the risk, so to speak, and it gives people more control over their energy needs.
And I imagine it could potentially make the whole system more efficient too.
Potentially, yes. Less energy lost in transmission, more tailored to individual needs. It's a fascinating concept.
It really is. And, it's funny. We started this deep dive talking about Thomas Edison and his light bulb.
Right, the OG innovator.
And now, over a century later, we're talking about a device that could potentially revolutionize the way we think about energy.
It's like we've come full circle in a way. From centralized power generation back to something more distributed, more in line with Edison's original vision of empowering individuals.
It's about reclaiming that spirit of innovation, of self-reliance. And while the lost generator might not be the ultimate solution to all our energy woes,
It's definitely a step in an interesting direction.
exactly, it's a spark.
Yeah.
It gets people thinking differently about energy, about where it comes from and how we use it.
And hopefully it inspires people to explore other solutions too, to keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
So for everyone listening out there, we encourage you to keep those curious minds engaged. Don't be afraid to dive into the world of alternative energy, to explore the possibilities, and maybe even to try building something like the lost generator yourself.
You never know what you might discover.
And who knows, maybe you'll be the one to come up with the next big breakthrough in sustainable energy. That's it for our deep dive into the Edison generator and the lost generator plans on ClickBank.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those innovative ideas flowing.
We'll see you on the next deep dive.